الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف المرسلين نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. Inshallah ta'ala, this session, the last part of the book, he talks about adab al-jawarih, the manners of al-jawarih, plural of jariha, which means the organs, the manners of the different organs of our body. And again reminding myself and others that Al-Iman, faith, is in the heart and the tongue and the jawarih and the different organs. So this is part of Al-Iman. This is not separate from Al-Iman. This is not separate from our faith. This is part of Al-Iman. And that is to have our organs functioning and moving and used according to what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants from us. Because the same jariha, his hand for example, it can either bring all forms of goodness, and we can count that and we would find many things to be done with our hands, or we can use it in something that is very harmful, and very lethal, and very dangerous, all by using the same hand, right? And as the deeds done by the jawarih, by the different organs, of course the roots of it or the foundation of it is in the heart. So if the heart is sound and clean, then the jawarih or the organs will act accordingly. And if the heart has impurities in it and it's sinful, then the organs will be also sinful. So as they say, that al-zahir, adab al-zahir, inwan al-batin, which means the manners of the outside appearance, it's a sign, it's the title, right, of what's inside. Because the outside speaks of what's inside. A person might be hypocrite, that's something different. But for the believers, their outside appearance is a sign of their inward actions and their hearts and so on. And also as a fact, if anything that a person would do wrongfully with one's organs, right? As we said, if it's good, that means the heart is good, but for a hypocrite, he might be good openly, but in his heart he's hiding disbelief or whatever, right? But as a fact, if the organs would do something bad, if we do something openly bad, evil, this is no doubt, there is evil in our hearts. There is no exception. So whoever says, my heart is clean, and he do something evil with his outside appearance, with his organs, he's lying. He doesn't know what clean means. According to him, it's clean. Maybe he means that he loves everyone, he loves Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Sure, a person can be a sinner and loves Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? And loves the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, which is, there's evidence from the Sunnah in that. But when we say that our hearts are clean, right? When a person outside appearance he would commit sins, this is false, because the sins or the deficiency is a sign of what's in the heart. And this is also the meanings of the Prophet, of the hadith of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. إن في الجسد مضغة إذا صلحت صلح الجسد كله وإذا فسدت فسد الجسد كله ألا وهي القلب. In this body there is mudghah, there is a flesh, that if it's sound and good, everything, or the whole body will be sound and good. And if it's bad and evil, the whole body will be bad and evil. And that is the heart.
Is it big sin or a small sin?
What is the big sin?
It's a kabira, sagira. Sin.
Any sin.
Any sin.
Any sin. Whether it's small or big, that's a sign of impurity in the heart. If a sin is committed, that comes from a disease in the heart. Right? So the person repents to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and seeks forgiveness from Allah, the heart is clean. Right? That's why the repentance wipes. If a person would say that means our hearts are impure, yeah, sure. But then we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for forgiveness sincerely, the hearts are clean. And that's why there's difference between the sins that are committed by the whispers of shaitan and the sins that as a result of our own nafs, our own self. How can you know the difference between both? Of course, the sins done by our own nafs, our own self, is still whispers of shaitan. He whispers to get what the diseases in your heart will come out and appear. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned about those fi qulubihim marad, they have disease in their hearts. So how would you know which sin is it from shaitan or it's from your own self? If you have a disease. The sin that keeps on coming and you have the urge to do it, and it's pushing you to do it, that's a disease in oneself. Right? The shaitan, he doesn't care what sin you do. So he gets you to do this one sin, whisper to do another sin. Not something that you are finding the urge or it's persistently coming to you. Right? Of course, the sin starts like this, then the more the person do it, the more you do it, then the disease become present in the heart. Right? So the shaitan, his work becomes easy. He just reminds the person. And that's it, he leaves the rest of the work for him. So the person has to work on himself, and he would find the difficulty in working on oneself, and he needs the patience and struggle and so on. He would fall again, and he would repent to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because it is a disease, like a person physically sick, right? And he's taken the cure. Sometimes it takes a week, some diseases will take a month, some diseases are permanent, which is a dangerous one. So, but when it comes to the heart, it can't stay permanently till one's die. That means the person is not taking the right medicine for it. So when it comes to the heart, with these types of diseases, everything is curable. If a person will take the right medicine for it. Right? And basically, the medicine for our hearts is the repentance, and to be steadfast on the deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and to be patient with the cure. Person living a life of sin, repented to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He should not expect that overnight, that's it, the matter is his life totally changed. It will happen, it will recur to him again. The circumstances will come to him again, so that he would fall again to the sin. So he needs to be aware of that, and to have patience till he would pass this level. People know that in medicine even, right? So the person has to pass the level in which after he repents to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, till it would hurt him to commit the sin after he used to enjoy it. But this level has to pass. The same thing if a person used to have a bad habit or a bad sin that he would do, and he repented to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. In the beginning it's difficult, and he would feel sometimes that he wants to do it. And he become weak sometimes, and he would even fall, come back and so on. After some time, the sin, he would hate it so much. If he's steadfast in working on oneself and to make dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to take the matter serious, after sometimes it becomes a painful thing. And this is by the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's why it's always the sabr, to be patient when it comes to staying away from sins, one of which is to control our body. Our hearts, we might not be able to control it, right? There's no switch to the heart. You cannot say, I move my heart this or that. But if you would act with one's organs according to what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants from us, that brings in the heart what we are seeking for the heart. The purity of the heart and so on. So it goes both ways. We need to be sincere, deed done by the heart. We need to be content. We need to, have the love of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. All these things done by the heart. And to have these things also, we need to do things physically. When you do things physically, you might not have a feeling in your heart. It's okay, but you know that this is correct. You do it this way, the feeling will come later. Right? But you're not seeking that feeling, you're seeking the obedience of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Then the feelings and the goodness and the happiness will come later. That's why the level of Al-Islam comes before the level of Al-Iman. قالت الأعراب أمنا قل لم تؤمنوا ولكن قولوا أسلمنا. What made the person enter the fold of Islam? Is it feelings? Many people, by the way, they don't enter the fold of Islam because of this feeling thing. Right? It should not be the feelings. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bestowed on the human beings the ability to think, to have intellectual abilities. This is what's unique to the human beings. What lead the person to the religion of Islam is that he would see clearly that this is the truth. That there's no one worthy of worship except Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That shirk and associating partners with Allah is all false. So he or she would not wait to this wonderful feeling, right, before he embraced Islam. If he waits for this, he might not get it then. But the thing that would lead the person like this, he would see that this is the truth. And many people, if you explain to them Islam, they say, it sounds right, it makes sense, I believe in that. Then become a Muslim. I don't feel it in my heart. This is all deceiving oneself. You already know that this is the truth. It's like someone sick, and he knows that making that surgery is a good thing. He's convinced. He says, I don't feel like it. People don't do this, right? So if a person would act then and become a Muslim, because that's what he believes is the truth, then working on oneself, one's Iman, then the Iman will come, and this is where the sweetness of Al-Iman comes. Right? And the more the person elevates himself, the more the sweetness of Al-Iman comes, and that's why the sweetness comes with Al-Iman. ذاق طعم الإيمان من رضي بالله ربا والإسلام دين محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم. He tasted the sweetness of Al-Iman, the one that is pleased with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to be the Rabb, the Prophet ﷺ to be the messenger, and Islam to be the deen. Actually, once the person embraces Islam, once the person repents to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, immediately he has a feeling. So this is a reward of the submission that comes first. You understand? So this is basically the relationship between our different parts of our bodies and our hearts. Us as Muslims, in many cases, why many people won't come to the masjid, won't repent to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because they don't have that feelings. They don't find it in their hearts. This is, who said that you have to have this? Shaitan can make you feel so good about a sin, that means the sin is good. Or when the deviants, people not according to the truth, they would say, try this and you will see that it feels good. If you say this dhikr, it makes you feel good. This is how to know what is right and what is wrong. People, those who are intoxicated, they feel good. Right? Even Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran about the disbelievers, وَإِذَا ذُكِرَ اللَّهُ وَحْدَهُ اشْمَأَزَّتْ قُلُوبُ الَّذِينَ لَا يُؤْمِنُونَ بِالْآخِرَةِ وَإِذَا ذُكِرَ الَّذِينَ مِن دُونِهِ إِذَا هُمْ يَسْتَبْشِرُونَ. If Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is mentioned alone, ishma'azzat is one of the strongest words that means disgust. So the disbelievers, when Allah is mentioned alone, they would feel disgusting. And if the partners are mentioned, those who they associate partners with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, إِذَا هُمْ يَسْتَبْشِرُونَ, they are very rejoicing. That means they are on the truth, because it's the feelings. Right? This is how the human beings are being deceived. The dogs and cats and everything, they have feelings too, right? But they lack the way of understanding and the ability to make a decision of what's coming ahead. So this is what's unique to the human being, and this is why the human being is tested with regarding to this that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave to him or to her. So what we need to benefit from this, you know that coming to the masjid is a good thing, to make the 5 daily salah. Right? It's a mandatory thing. Don't wait for the feeling to come, oh, I feel great to go to the masjid. But what do you do if you feel lazy? If you don't feel like it? If you feel that it's so heavy? You still have to come. You can still walk, mashallah, and you can still get up, and you can still do this. Physically, you can do that. You don't have to have that feelings with it. And if you do this, then the feeling will come. And this is the nature of the human beings. And we are tested like this. So that even when you are in your downtime, if it's correct to say that, you're still a slave of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And you would worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala even if you don't feel like it. And of course, if that feeling comes, you would ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for help so that it changes, so that you go back to your good way and so on. And this is again a normal thing for a Muslim to do. So the organs are very important. And that's why we don't have an excuse when we have the organs that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave us, and we don't use it in matters of the obedience of Allah. If a person is stealing, he should not say, well, I could not help myself, my hand, I found it moving, and it just grabbed whatever, and nobody with sanity would say that. Right? People will be crazy if they say these things. He has to have the control of it. Right? So, the same thing when it comes to things we do and things that we do not do. And this is what the responsibility with our jawarih, with our organs. This is just a reminder. And most of us, we exactly know what are the different things to be done with the different parts of our bodies. We just need to do it and to avoid what is haram. So, one example, for example, he said, adab al-basar, the manners or the etiquettes of sight or seeing things. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave us the eyes. Great favor from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. There's a purpose for this, and that is to establish the worship of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. To use it to gain rewards from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and to stay away from disobedience of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's not given just to enjoy for the sake of enjoyment, but it's given for the purpose of our life. And to enjoy and to be grateful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So when it comes to al-mu'ashara, when it comes to the subject of the good living with those who are close to you. We're not talking about the manners of the basar, or the looking in which we have to lower the gaze from what is haram, and to look at the things that are benefiting, look into the Quran, we look into what is benefiting to us. We look at the creation of Allah that increases our Iman every time we see it, because the eyes go straight to the heart. Whatever you see with your eyes, it does not just stay in the heart, it stays in the eyes. It goes straight into the heart. It affects the heart directly, either in a good way or in a negative way. The image, that's why when you close your eyes, you see what you are busy with, right? So we have to make sure that we see what is good and what is appropriate, and we stay away from what is haram, because it has these images and these evil things in the hearts that prevent the hearts from being sound and pure and so on. But here, he's talking specifically about the relationship with those who are close to us, because this is the subject of today. So in adab al-mu'ashara, in those who we live with in a close relationship, what is the manners of our eyesight towards them? He said, نظرك للأخي بالمودة التي يعرفها منك. You look at your brother with the goodness and the love that he knows from you, because he's close to you. See, he knows exactly when you look pleasant and when you look angry, when you look this, right? Husband and wife, things like this. So it is something that to be observed, because the way you look, it speaks so much for itself. So this is a manner that has to be observed, that you give that look that he expects from you. هو والحاضرون, him and those who are present, right? ناظرا إلى أحسن شيء يبدو منه, and looking at the best that can be seen from him. غير صارف بصرك عنه في حديثه لك, without turning away your eyesight from him when he's speaking to you. So when he's speaking to you, you look at him, you give him the attention, and even sometimes we do this out of forgetfulness, and we should stay away from it, even when matters of salam. You're speaking, and our brother is giving salam, so you make salam like this. Right? This is not the appropriate way to do, but at the same time, the one that you speak into, he has rights. So you have to look at him and give him the attention. So one of them you have to take permission from, right? And being kind and having the concern towards everyone, that we have that respect to everyone. And again, this is to all those who are close to us. And the more that people we deal with, the more they have rights to do with this. So usually the subject comes between the husband and the wife, even the children. When we speak to them, we look at them and we give them the attention. You're not diverting, you're not ignoring what they're saying, and you're not reading while they're speaking, right? But looking at the computer and they're speaking. If you're busy with something, you tell them, wait till you finish, and then you give them all the attention, right? This is the etiquette that needs to be observed. So this is with regards to adab al-basar, right? With those who are close to us. Because of the time, of course there's many things to be mentioned here, but this is what he mentioned only when it comes to this relationship. Adab al-sam', the etiquette of hearing. Again, we're not talking about the sinful things that a person can listen to, or the good things that we need to listen to. This is also something that we will be questioned about in the Day of Judgment, and it will witness for us or against us in the Day of Judgment, whether we used it for the sake of Allah or whether we used it to disobey Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But here again, with regarding to the relationships, he says, إظهار التلذذ بحديث محادثك, that you would enjoy when the one that is close to you is speaking to you. You're enjoying, and you will show that, and you give him that attention that you're listening. This is something that the ulama talked about, the issue of to listen, right? To listen to someone that is speaking to us. And they always mention the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ in Bukhari, when Aisha radiallahu anha, she said to the Prophet ﷺ about the 10 women, those who came together, and they were each one of them talking about the characteristics of her husband. It's a long hadith. And at the end of the hadith, the Prophet ﷺ said to Aisha radiallahu anha, I was to you as Abu Zar' to Zar', because the best of all the 10 was Abu Zar'. Right? And it's a beautiful hadith to study sometimes. Maybe we should mention that one day, because The words of it is very difficult, but at the same time it's so benefiting. So many benefits to it. But anyway, the Prophet ﷺ, at the end of all of this, this is what he said. They say one of the benefits, see how the Prophet ﷺ, being the Prophet ﷺ, with all the responsibilities and so on, he waited all of this to hear from Aisha radiallahu anha, saying the whole thing, did not interrupt her or anything, waited and listened, and even said to her such a beautiful statement at the end, that I'm to you like Abu Zar' was to Zar', to listen or to learn from the Prophet ﷺ, to listen, right? And to have the ability to listen. Sometimes in arguments, what happens? People are not listening, people are waiting to respond, right? They're not listening. They're just waiting to refute what is being said. But listening is something else. A person would put himself into the position of the one that is speaking. Again, we're not talking about enemies, we're talking about the closest people to us, right? So listening with this sincerity, both ways needs to be done. Not, trying to hurt one another based on what a person would say. So this is such an important thing. غَيْرُ صَارِفِ بَصَرِكَ عَنْهُ فِي حَدِيثٍ. This is mentioned in the Sama', not to stay away from looking at the person while you're listening. So you can say, I'm listening, but you're looking at the computer, you're looking at the book, you're looking elsewhere. No, you need to listen while you're looking at the person. Of course, we do this. Some people would say that means in all matters of listening, and we're talking about those who are halal for you to look at. But for brothers and sisters, those who are not related, they have to lower the gaze. Even if they have to speak, they have to lower the gaze, and this is not disrespectful. This is the orders of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And sometimes the brothers are the ones that are lowering the gaze and not the sisters, or the opposite. Both should lower the gaze. If they have to speak to each other, right, then they lower their gaze and they speak. This is the etiquette, not as otherwise. وَلَا قَاطِعَ لَهُ بِشَيْءٍ. And do not interrupt him by anything when he speaks. فَإِنِ اضْطَرَّكَ الْوَقْتُ إِلَى شَيْءٍ مِّن ذَلِكَ فَأَظْهِرْ لَهُ عُذْرَكَ. If time is pressing, right, because sometimes some of us do not know how to stop, right? A person would speak and speak and speak. So you have, time is very precious. So what do? Say your excuse. Ask for permission, right? In a nice way, that, time is tight. You have to do this. With a nice way, with good manners, mashallah, the other side should also understand. So this is when it comes to listening. And again, most of it, it's things that we know. But we need to have the patience to apply, because you will find yourself opposing that so much. But Allah wants from us otherwise. Adabul lisan, the etiquettes of the tongue. Again, this is not just one lecture, this can be a seminar over days and days. The etiquettes of speaking. Because a word can be the reason for the person to enter Jannah. A word can make the person fall into the hellfire 70 years. As the Prophet ﷺ said, by the word of the tongue, a person enters the fold of Islam. A word of the tongue can make the person outside the fold of Islam. Right? So this organ is such a dangerous one. And that's why we have to think before we speak. And as Imam Nawawi rahimahullah in his book, Riyadh al-Salihin, he said that since it's of three types, if you know that it's evil, don't say it. If you know that it's good, for sure, then say it. If you're in doubt, don't say it. That means out of three cases you're supposed to speak, only one case for you to speak. That means we speak less and we're quiet more. Unless, of course, there's a benefit. So we do not speak unless it's for sure benefiting. If we are in doubt, we do not say anything. Same thing when we're asked about matters of the religion. We have to say, if we know, we say it. If we do not know, we say Allahu A'lam. Right? This is half of the ilm. Half of the knowledge is to say Allahu A'lam. Allah knows best. And you don't have an answer. People should accept that. If people are asking a person of knowledge, and he says, ask someone else. I do not know. It doesn't mean that he has no knowledge of it, but maybe he is not quite sure, or he doesn't want to put himself into the position of answering, or doesn't know, whatever there is. that should be taken. Sometimes people would say, then what do I do? Well, ask someone else. There's no one else. Travel far distances, it's deen, you have to know. But the person, if he knows and he doesn't say it, of course he's concealing the truth. But if he doesn't know, what should he do? Should he go to the hellfire so that you would act accordingly? If he doesn't know, it's a good thing even to be trained to hear that, so that we do the same thing. We do not know, we say, Allahu A'lam, I do not know, this is absolutely fine. Imam Malik rahimahullah, a man came to him from Al-Yaman, all the way to Al-Madinah, traveling in the old days, right? Especially to Imam Malik, because he was the Imam of the dunya at that time, Imam of this world at this time. So he went to him and he had 40 mas'ala, 40 questions. And Imam Malik rahimahullah, right, Imam Malik, 36 of these questions, he said, Allah A'lam, I do not know. Right? So the man, he said, what do I tell to the people when I go back to Yemen? He said, go to them and tell them, Imam Malik said, I do not know. It's easy, right? It's a fact. So this is something that we have to be humble enough to say that and to accept that, basically. Anyway, but again, the subject here is for those who are close to you. Special attitude, special etiquettes for those who are close to us. أن تحدث الإخوان بما يحبون في وقت نشاطهم لسماع ذلك. That you would speak to your brothers, and again to those who are close to you, with what they like at the time when they have the eagerness to hear it. Right? You're not just throwing words and that's it. Doesn't matter if they're in a good mood or a bad mood or whatever. You have to make sure that they are eager to hear what you want to say, and they will say it. If you don't find that in them, don't say it. Wait for another time to say it. We're not talking about matters of emergencies or something important that has to be done. We're talking about, again, someone that is close to you, that is not something that is far away from you. He says, بَأَذِنَ لَهُمُ النَّصِيحَةِ بِمَا فِيهِ صَلَاحُهُم. You would be generous enough to be concerned towards them and to advise them with the concern in your heart with what is benefiting to them. So you would make sure that you only say to them what comes out from a pure heart, that you are concerned. You're not exposing their affairs, you're not stepping over them. Because sometimes some people, they think for you to be higher, to be superior, you have to step on people. That keeps you higher. The more people you step on, the more gets you higher. This is evil, right? This is shaitan. Our deeds could get us higher, not stepping over others. So one of which is when we speak to others, when we have nasiha towards others, the sincerity of the heart that we are really concerned, that we really care about them to change, to be good. That's why our words will be different. And the concern of the heart has an effect that we do not see it with our own eyes. Allah knows best. And then he says, مُسْقِطًا مِنْ كَلَامِكَ مَا يَكْرَهُونَهُ. And eliminate from what you say what they hate. Make sure that you would use your tongue only to make them hear what you like. We're not talking about forbidding evil. People don't like to hear that, right? But you have to say it and you have to do it. We're talking here about this special relationship and the good way of speaking and so on. وَلَا تَرْفَعْ صَوْتَكَ عَلَيْهِمْ. Do not raise your voice over them. And وَلَا تُخَاطِبْهُمْ إِلَّا بِمَا يَفْهَمُونَهُ وَيَعْلَمُونَ. And do not speak to them except with something that they would understand and they would know. Otherwise you become fitna for them. You're speaking to them about something they cannot comprehend. Right? So instead you should make it easy for them, to explain to them what is easy for them to know. So these are some of the etiquettes for those who are close. Adabul Yadayn, the manners of the hands. Again, this is brief, right? Because we can take so much time, but we need to, if we get out of this, that we are concerned of all of these things when we deal with those who are close to us. Inshallah, this is great benefit. Adabul Yadayni, bastuhuma lil ikhwani bil birri was sir. That you extend your hand with goodness and righteousness and to strengthen the relationships, and do not withhold it from them. And the meaning of bastuhuma, that you extend your hand, not necessarily with money, but your hand is doing something to them. You're doing goodness to them with your hand, right? Giving, cleaning, whatever there is. ولا عن الإفضال عليهم ومعونتهم فيما يستعينون به. Do not stay away from being basically trying to remind them of all of your goodness towards them. You don't do that, and you help them for anything that they need help from without having them to reminding them of your favors. You do it for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Adab al-rijlayn, the etiquettes of walking for those who are close to you. أن تماشي إخوانك على حد التبع ولا تتقدمهم فإن قربك إليه تقرب بقدر الحاجة, which means if you walk with your brothers, right, you walk with them to the limit of following them, meaning to not go in front of them unless there's a benefit or there's a reason for that, and be close the way that they would benefit from this closeness if they need anything. And if you have to, you do this and you come back to your place, right? And do not stay away from the rights of your brothers, thinking that this is because you trust them. No, you help them, you use your legs basically in what is benefiting, and you walk with them and so on if it's needed, if it's something that would bring benefits. And then Fudayl rahimahullah, he said, تَرْكُ حُقُوقِهِمْ مَذَلَّةً, which is a very good meaning. If you leave their rights, this is humiliation. It means to give them their rights, this is honor, not the opposite. If you leave their honor, this is a form of humiliation. If you see them coming, he says to get up for them, right? This is different than when the Prophet ﷺ, he would hate for people when he walks in, that they would stand up for him, ﷺ. And he forbade the Sahaba radiallahu anhum for doing that, because this is the ways of, as he told them, the Romans, matters of kibr or arrogance, that a person would like when he enters a place, people would stand up for him. This is not in our religion, right? But this is for the one that he would love for people to stand up for him. We should not like for people to stand for us. But when someone comes, right, especially if he is an elder or someone that comes from traveling or whatever there is, you're not standing out of the honor and as if people are standing like in the military or something like this. No, you're standing to be kind and to, embrace the person, shake hands, whatever there is. It's not a matter of a ritual thing that people would stand up for the honor of the person that is coming. And you sit when they sit, and you sit in the place where they tell you to sit. It's one of the etiquettes when you visit someone. You don't enter unless you get their permission, right? And when you enter, of course, we don't stand in front of the door, right? We stay to the right or to the left. And if you enter, you don't sit till they tell you to sit. And of course, the person lower his gaze, and to sit in the place that they will tell you to sit in that place, because they know better what is the best place, especially if the house is small, and maybe you would sit in front of a door that if it's open, you can see the people in the house. So you can ask him. If he doesn't say any place, you can ask him, where do you want me to sit? This is something that the Prophet ﷺ would do. The last part of the book is, since he talked about the outside, he talks briefly about the inside. Adab al-bawatin, or the inner etiquettes and manners. He said that adab al-zahir, the etiquettes of the outside, is a sign of what's in the inside. And the Prophet ﷺ, when he saw a man playing or messing with his beard in the salah, the Prophet ﷺ said, لو خشع قلب هذا لخشعت جوارحه. He said, if the heart of that person is in khushu', his organs, his hands will have khushu' also. So if a person is moving too much in the salah, this is a sign that the heart is not in khushu'. But if the person physically looks like his khushu', it doesn't mean that the heart is in khushu', because he can be pretending. But we're not ordered to check what's in the hearts. And the khushu' has nothing to do with some looks or some, a person would look like he's, like a person in khushu'. There's no such a thing. And Umar radiallahu anhu condemned when people would look like this, right? He says after that, اقتران الأدب بالعلم والحال والصحبة. The adab or the manners should be with knowledge and the state that a person in and the companionship that he's in. Right? So any knowledge, any state that you're in, any companionship without adab, without manners, usually it is returned against you. Knowledge is a good thing, right? A good state that a person in is a good thing. Companionship that is good is a good thing, correct? But if it's not adorned by manners, it would return against you. So the knowledge won't have its goodness unless it has manners with it. A person gets some harshness or becomes arrogant as a result of knowledge if it's not adorned with manners, and so on. Also he said that al-batin مطلع الله أو إن الله عز وجل من المطلع يعني. The inward is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala looks at, as the hadith of the Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم إن الله لا ينظر إلى صوركم ولا إلى أجسامكم ولكن ينظر إلى قلوبكم وأعمالكم. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not look at your bodies and how you look like. He looks at what's in your hearts and your deeds. Doesn't matter whether a person is ugly or not. This is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the most wise, but He looks at what's in your heart and your actions. That's what really matters. So the heart, this is the place where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sees in the human being, and a person has to be watchful of that. To make sure that we do not worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala only with our physical actions. And again, this is a very, very important point. That do we really make sure that our hearts is being exposed to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Or we, in our acts of worship with Allah, we do it as we are watched by people. People do not see what's in our hearts. Some of us, our ibadah is only outside appearance organs only. We do not stop and think and ponder all these diseases in the heart. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is watching us and He knows what's in our hearts. And if we do not cure these diseases, this can be very harmful for the person during one's life. One of the reasons why a person would be steadfast and then leave this path to be deviated is because of a disease in the heart that he didn't work on it till it becomes too late and he would deviate. Or at the moment of death, or in the day of judgment. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, يَوْمَ تُبْلَ السَّرَائِرُ. The day of judgment when the secrets will be exposed. This is because of what's in the hearts. So this is the time when we ponder and we think and we focus to look into our hearts. What's in our hearts? What are the deficiencies that we have in our hearts? Sincerity, the devotion, and so on and so forth, to make sure that we clean ourselves and to make sure that we are obedient to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And what are these things? Al-Ikhlas, sincerity, Tawakkul, to put our trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to depend with your heart on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Al-Khawf, the fear of Allah. Al-Raja, the hope for the rewards from Allah. Al-Rida, to be content with the qadr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and with the deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Sometimes it seems like we have to apologize for some orders of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is all perfect. If Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala ordered, for example, anything, for a woman to wear hijab, it's not, it's because of your own benefit, it's protecting you, as if we're apologizing, No, a person should be honored to apply the orders of Allah. This is the honor of the person that will apply that. And you should be happy that Allah chose you to be obedient to Him subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the same thing for any of our affairs. Also, as-sabr, to be patient. Salamat as-sadr, to have a clean chest, a clean heart towards others. Husn al-tawiyya, the goodness of the inward feelings, the goodness of it, that you don't have any bad expectations towards others and so on. والاهتمام بذلك في أمر المسلمين, and to be concerned about that to the affairs of the Muslims. All Muslims, no difference between one or the other. The Prophet ﷺ said, مَنْ لَمْ يَهْتَمَّ الْمُسْلِمِينَ فَلَيْسَ مِنْهُمْ. Whoever is not concerned about matters of the Muslims, he's not one of them. It's like the one body, as we said earlier. If one organ of it is suffering, then the rest will suffer and will have fever and so on. At the end of the book, he says something, although I didn't give the book its rights, I just said it pretty briefly like that. He said, فَإِذَا تَأَدَّبَ النَّاظِرُ فِي كِتَابِنَا هَذَا بِهَذِهِ الْأَدَابِ وَتَأَدَّبَ ظَاهِرُهُ بِمَا ذَكَرْنَا رَجَوْتُ أَنْ يَكُونَ مِنَ الْمُوقِنِينَ. He says that if the one looking into our book, and that's what we need to ask ourselves this question. The things that we heard since Asr till now, if we apply this, right, inwardly and outwardly, he says, I hope then that person is from among those who have certainty. Imagine that our life will be according to what we heard, right? We are not saying that others should be like what we heard. No, we're talking about ourselves. And these are one of the things when we apply it, you might be tested that the others are not seeing this. They are not doing this. But you're not doing it for them to treat you the same way. You're doing it because this is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants from you. Regardless of their reaction, what do they do, whatever there is, this is your duty as a Muslim to act like this. Right? So this is the difference between someone that is sincerely doing the deeds for the sake of Allah and someone is just wanting some own personal benefits from other human beings. No, we seek rewards from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the hereafter. That's what sabr is. But we should not be in it, especially in relationships. A husband or a wife would say, if I'm extremely nice like this, he will take advantage of it. Right? You continue to be evil and mean. There's no trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You're doing that for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala alone. Right? If we trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that this will bring benefits to you. Because you're doing it for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Right? Whether the person take advantage or not, and again we're not talking about evil consequences of things, we're talking about relationships and things like this. Definitely Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will make things better, with the proper knowledge of course. Then at the end he says, فَنَسْأَلُ اللَّهَ سُبْحَانَهُ وَتَعَالَى أَنْ يُوَفِّقَنَا لِلْأَخْلَاقِ الْجَمِيلَةِ. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to guide us and to help us to have the beautiful manners, وَأَنْ يُسَدِّدَنَا فِي أَفْعَالِنَا وَأَقْوَالِنَا وَأَحْوَالِنَا بِمَنِّهِ وَكَرَمِهِ. And to give us the correctness in all of our actions and our speeches and our states that we are in by His favor and His generosity. إِنَّهُ أَكْرَمُ الْأَكْرَمِينَ وَأَرْحَمُ الرَّحِمِينَ. He is the best of all generous and He is the most merciful. وَالْحَمْدُ لِلَّهِ وَحْدَهُ وَصَلَّى اللَّهُ عَلَى مَن لَّا نَبِيَّ بَعْدَهُ مُحَمَّدٍ وَآلِهِ وَصَحْبِهِ وَسَلَّمَ. So we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make us benefit of what we heard. And again, if the only benefit that we get is that gives us some concern that we need to make sure that we are watchful of these types of things and there are deen in it, there are knowledge in it, that patience, and we would see that how far away are we from really applying the deen of Islam in its totality. And we need to work on ourselves and we need to work in these manners and these behaviors. And how the Sahaba radiallahu anhum, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala praised them and they excelled so much because of what was present in their hearts and their obedience to the Prophet ﷺ over their own desires. This is a major test for us because the desires comes on the way and all kinds of things like this. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make us apply what we heard. Wa sallallahu wa sallam wa baraka ala Muhammad wa alihi wa sahbihi. I have 10 minutes, I got 5 minutes.